Hello everyone. This is another new video clip of week 7 that we will discuss chapter 7, social context of second language acquisition, or we call SLA. Here's the content of this chapter. We will discuss three main aspects. The first one is about communicative competence. The second one is micro-social factor. And the third one is about macro-social factor. I would like to begin from the definition of communicative competence. This definition provided by Zawil and Troike in 2003. So they defined communicative competence as following. Okay. The purpose is to communicate appropriately within a particular language community, involve knowing not only the vocabulary, phonology, grammar, and other aspects of linguistic structure, but also when to speak, what to say, to whom, and how to say it appropriately in any given situation. So it can be beyond the aspect related to linguistic structure, everyone, because in communicative competence, based on this definition, it means that we need to know about the appropriate in terms of when, in terms of what, whom, and how for any given situation, and use it appropriately. In short, for communicative competence, it does involve the social and cultural knowledge a speaker are presumed to have, which enable them to use and interpret linguistic form. For this one, this has become known as communicative competence. This term is coined after linguistic competence. Actually, for linguistic competence, we refer to the system of linguist knowledge. The linguistic knowledge possessed or owned by any native speaker of a language. The term language community refers to a group of people who share knowledge of a common language to at least some extent. For example, like multilingual individuals, they are often members of more than one language community, generally to different degrees. The competence of non-native speaker of a language may differ significantly from the competence of native speaker, even as they may participate in the same or overlapping language communities. In addition to this, a multilingual speaker total communicative competence can be different from what that of a monolingual in including knowledge of a rule for the appropriate choice of language and for switching between languages. Given a particular social context and communicative purpose, these differences are due to different social functions of first language L1 and second language L2 learning, and to the differences between learning language and learning culture. In discussing linguistic and psychological perspective on second language acquisition SLA, we need to make a clear difference among second language SL, foreign language FL, and auxiliary language AL learning. What is it in terms of second language SL? Second language or SL is generally learned and used within the context of a language community, which dominantly includes members who speak it natively. It is needed to participate in that community socially, academically, politically, and economically. For example, like this statement A, Spanish speaker in USA learning English, Korean in China learning Chinese, Chinese in Singapore learning English. I would like to pick up the last statement as the sample for further discussion. Regarding second language, it should be used or learned, okay, in the context that the user of the language in any community use it dominantly. This one, it can be regarded as the native language as well, that they use in different arena or different domain, like what I show you in this slide, socially, politically, or in case you go to say Singapore, Singlish, okay, that is from English, is contextualized English as the language that is used dominantly. So everything, okay, in terms of communication, in terms of the field of education, in terms of business OL, okay, so you need to use English, or in the specific one we call Singlish. Communicative in SL or second language, therefore, often require considerable knowledge of the larger community culture and social structure. Even those learners, they may be selective in deciding which element they want to adopt as a part of their own identity. Second one is foreign language FL. In terms of foreign language, learning usually happen within student own native culture, often have little opportunity to interact with members of the language community who speak the foreign language natively, and typically have little opportunity to participate fully in the foreign language society. Indeed, too often the sole reason for studying the language is that it is required for graduation. For example, in Cambodia, Cambodians they learn English, okay, because of any specific purpose. But actually, in the context of Cambodia, English is not widely used or is not dominantly used, not like the case of Malaysia, or not like the case of Philippines or even Singapore. To put it more into specific example to support what I have just mentioned there on, everyone, most of Cambodian students they prefer learning English as a foreign language in order to support their study, to support the research, okay, during their study. Therefore, ultimately, they would like to be a graduate, which depending on the English language. Furthermore, they need to be able to communicate in English for the sake of ensuring their job opportunity as well. Auxiliary language AL. Auxiliary language or AL learning usually takes place in a context where it will function for the purpose of phonetic or technology. And when its use will generally be limited to this social domain, everyone, not large SL or FL thereof. To the extent an AL auxiliary language is required at all for face-to-face interaction, it is likely to be used in linguistically diverse settings which require participants to make use of a common language code for a restricted range of social function. For example, the use of English by various nations in Asian summit. Therefore, the content of what a speaker needs to know as well as judgment of relative success depend on the social context within which he or she learn and is using the language. In discussing micro-social factor, we should examine the following domain as issue, everyone. The first one is L2 variation, second language variation, input and interaction, socio-cultural theory. There are considerable differences between second language learner, L2 learner. However, these different language production were found to follow regular and predictable pattern. On the top of this, it is known as variable feature. These are the multiple linguistic forms which are systematically or predictably used by various speakers of any language, or by the same speaker at different time with the same meaning or even function. They happen at every linguistic level. For example, like level of vocabulary, morphology, syntax, or even discourse. Take a look at the following example. I ate dinner or I ate supper. On the top of this, there is the switch use in terms of the word that can restate each other in terms of a synonym, like the switch use of dinner and supper. So this one is relevant to vocabulary. Next one is about phonology. She was coming or she was coming. Take a look at coming and coming, right? So for the first one, coming, so we need to consider in terms of the sound that we use lastly here. That's why we pronounce coming. But the second one, coming, this one is sound that the speaker they use with the same intention like the first one, just different rule of pronouncing. She was sure or she was shunt. This one, it can be different in terms of the morphology of the word. Okay, that can be verb 3, but one we change the spelling, and another one just add ed. And the last one, it is related to syntax, the structure. This is a big book. This is that a big book. Okay, so this one we can see that the first sentence is used with verb to be is, and the second one, the structure of the sentence is without verb to be, but they refer to the same meaning. Variable feature depend on communicative context. They are linguistic context, psychological context, and micro-social context. For linguistic context, element of language form and function associated with the variable element. For example, like ring, song, etc., and am working. For the first one, for the first example, like ring and song, we have relation to the phonology like sound, right? That they use only one syllable, ring and song. Okay, yes. So for this one, we can see one of the linguistic context. Okay, that we use only one syllable that is related to sound. Second one, am working. This one not sound but sound. For this one, you can see the last letter N, right? Not letter G, N G. Okay. For sound, in this sentence, it can be notified or highlighted in relation to the use of progressive form, okay? Or we use before the context of the language pause, everyone, for some native speaker. We have other rule for sound and sound, like sound you can use after front consonant. Okay, for example, it can be produced by the front your mouth organ, right? Like the sound related to palatal, okay, or labiodental, and sound it can be produced, okay, with after the back consonant, all right, not the front consonant, like sound. So this one, like the example of juvela, okay, or vela, because it related to the mouth organ at the back. Another context is psychological context. This can be factors which are associated with the amount of attention which is being given to a language form during production. The level of automaticity versus control in processing or intellectual demand for a particular task, everyone. Like this one, in case you apply in the context of a writing skill class, okay, or in any a formal situation, okay, you would say that is a big cook. For this one, it is related to your high attention to the language that you produce as your production, and you try to automatically control, okay, use your language output with the formal setting. Another one is micro-social context. It can be the feature of setting or situation and interaction which relate to a communicative event within which language is being produced, interpreted, and negotiated. This includes level of formality and participant relationship to one another, and whether the interaction is public or intimate. In relation to the previous sentence, like what I have just shown you, in terms of your high attention and at the formal setting, you demand yourself in order to produce the formal one in terms of the syntax that you need to have verb to be, okay, and the rest to be full in terms of the structural construction. But in micro-social context, once again, in relation to the syntax, okay, you would think that should you include a verb to be or not. You might say that's a big book rather than that is a big book. In case of less formality, okay, or when you are talking with your friend, okay, that is informal dialogue. Therefore, it is just interaction, okay, personally only, not at the formal one that you need to enhance yourself. So microsocial context is related to the feature of the setting or the context, okay, that related to the communicative event. So it eventually related to the production of the language as well. Input and interaction. Language input to the learner is surely necessary for either first language or second language learning, L1 or L2 learning, in order to take place or happen. Nature of input modification. For this one, language addressed by L1 speaker to L2 learner frequently differ in systematic way from language addressed to native or very fluent speaker. In speech, the modified variety we can call foreign talk, everyone. While utterances by native speaker to language learner are usually grammatical, simplified input may omit obligatory element, like here. So we have the omission of the word, okay, by the native speaker. Mommy, look at your work. Actually, it look like or it sound the positive sentence. Anyway, a native speaker of this utterance, it specifically and purposefully refer to question that it has been omitted with the fully structure of using dash. Okay, does mommy look at your work? You have Indian in Korea, yes, but the purpose of the speaker is to ask question that with omission of do. Would you give us pencil? Yeah, so this one it with omission of article here. We have different characteristics of foreigner talk, everyone, and I would like to show you this characteristic, but I just pick up a few in order to let you see. For example, like simple vocabulary and using high frequency word and phrases. Normally for the foreigner or native speaker related to foreigner talk, they would choose only simple word, but the word that with high frequency, it means that the word that are commonly used for communication, okay, or the formal one, as well as phrases. When they are talking, foreigner normally they stress, okay, or they heavily tone on the keyword or important word in the sentence. There is also the existence of long pauses, okay, from one utterance to another by the foreigner, okay? And they try to produce the simplified grammatical structure as well, everyone. Foreigner, they also prefer showing you the slow rate of speech, okay, and they based on topicalization. Topicalization, it means that they need to have the topic, okay, for discussion at the beginning, and then they add more comment or idea about the topic. Their articulation can be made carefully as well, okay? And the volume could be loud or and more syntactic regularity and retention of full form, okay? For example, there are less contraction or short form, and they use a pure pronoun, Nature of interactional modification. Along with input, social interaction is also important for L1 of first language acquisition. Actually, no children can learn their first or initial language by merely listening to tape recording, a radio broadcast, or television program. Those many L2 or second language learner they do, okay, because it should be the natural exposure to the language already through their interaction. Some example of interactional modification, everyone. NS that I used to show you here, it refer to native speaker, and another one, NNS, it is non-native speaker. For repetition, okay, for example, native speaker, this is your assignment for tomorrow, and non-native speaker is what, okay, and native speaker, this is your assignment. So native speaker, okay, in terms of the interactional modification, okay, they try to repeat what they have said in the previous utterance. And paraphrase, native speaker, this is your assignment for tomorrow. And non-native speaker, what? And then native speaker, this is your homework. So homework is the paraphrase or the statement of assignment. Feedback. Feedback can be other type of interaction that can enhance second language acquisition. Okay, include feedback from non-native native speaker, which make non-native speaker learn or aware that their usage is not acceptable in some way, and which provide a model for correctness. Normally, feedback is related to the word correctness already, because feedback can be information that can be provided to someone, for example, like student, in order to help them understand well that they are using the right target language. Everyone, that can be spoken feedback or written feedback. Okay. Feedback to L2 learner may be in the form of direct one or indirect. Okay, direct correction include explicit statement. For example, like this is the wrong word. Okay, this is the wrong word. So you tell or you inform directly or explicitly where the mistake is. And another one is indirect correction. Indirect correction, you have different way, as the following example. For example, you use comprehension check or request for clarification, everyone. A non-native speaker said, I can't access, but native speaker would say, you can what? You can what? So this one is for clarifying once again in order to check up with the mistake. Another one can be increasing intonation question, like Nanette NNS said, John got to town yesterday. So this sentence error with got, right, should be when. Therefore, NS try to raise intonation. John got to town in order to alert NNS that he or she should check up again with the word got. Or can be paraphrase, everyone. NNS said John got to town yesterday, and NS, yes, John went shopping. Just make a restatement with another replace word for alerting the mistake for changing. I would like to pause here for my first clip, everyone, and the second clip will continue from feedback to interpersonal interaction, okay, the series of Vygotsky in microsocial factor. See you soon, everyone.